Hello and welcome to Lecture Series 10. In this set of lectures, we're going to talk about something called operant conditioning. And operant conditioning is when you learn to associate your actions with the consequences of your actions. So even though both classical conditioning and operant conditioning have the word conditioning in them, conditioning just means learning. And operant conditioning is learning something very different, right? It's learning what happens when I perform a particular action or behave in a particular way. So we're going to talk about operant conditioning. We're going to talk about the most famous person in operant conditioning, a researcher by the name of B.F. Skinner. We'll talk about rewards and punishments, how social media and your cell phones are designed to take advantage of operant conditioning to make you addicted to them. And then we're going to switch gears and talk about a different kind of learning called observational learning. And in observational learning, your children learn by watching what you do. Okay, so in the previous lecture, lecture series 9, we talked about classical conditioning, and that was Pavlov and his drooling dogs. And in classical conditioning, what you're learning is the association between two things, or the association and, as a result of that, your reaction. So it's really stimulus reaction. The person doesn't have to do anything. The reactions that we have to stimuli are automatic. Operant conditioning, you have to do something. The person undergoing operant conditioning has to operate on their environment. They have to act on it. So if you want your child to say please when they want something, then you can reward them each time they say please. That's operant conditioning. Parents know all about operant conditioning. The idea of operant conditioning really came from this fellow, a guy by the name of Thorndike, and what he called his law of effect. It's the same thing as operant conditioning. What Thorndike said is if you want a behavior to reoccur, reward it. Okay? If you want a behavior to stop, you punish it. Straightforward. How did Thorndike prove this? He developed a puzzle box that he put cats in. And if you want to, you can look at a video, a very nice video, of a cat in a Thorndike-like setting trying to escape from a puzzle box. But basically the puzzle box, the cat had to push a lever and pull this in order to get out. And each time the cat got out of the puzzle box, it was rewarded with food. And what Thorndike saw is presented in this graph here. If you reward a cat for escaping a puzzle box, then every time the cat is returned to the puzzle box, they'll get out faster and faster and faster. So on the vertical axis of this graph is the amount of time it took to escape the puzzle box, and on the horizontal line is the number of trials or the number of times that the cat was put in the puzzle box. In this case, the cat was rewarded for getting out of the puzzle box, and you can see that the cat's escape time went from 4 minutes all the way down to half of 1 minute. Right? So Thorndike was the person who started this. But the name most closely associated with operant conditioning is B.F. Skinner, this fellow, professor from Indiana University. He's the father, if you will, of operant conditioning. And B.F. Skinner pushed it really far, the idea of operant conditioning. So far, in fact, that he argued that everything you do is completely determined by whether you were rewarded for doing that in the past or whether you were punished for doing that in the past, right? So everything we do is determined by our consequences. In fact, he went so far as to say that our sense of free will, our sense that we select our actions, that I decide to get out of bed when the alarm goes off rather than hitting the snooze button and sleeping 10 more minutes, that all of that free will is an illusion. Instead, I've got a picture here of a plastic bag that's being blown around in the wind. For B.F. Skinner, that's us, right? A plastic bag, the wind determines where the plastic bag is going to go. In the case of operant conditioning, it's reinforcements or rewards and punishments that determine which way we go with our lives. So B.F. Skinner. the parent of operant conditioning. And B.F. Skinner is very well known for something called either a Skinner box or an operant conditioning box. And you see a picture there on the right with B.F. Skinner using an operant conditioning box. And in the middle there, you see a cartoon of a Skinner box. And what happens in a Skinner box is there's something that an animal has to do, maybe peck a screen or push a button. The operant conditioning box will count the number of times a bird pecked a screen or a rat pressed a button. And it will also determine when that animal is given a pellet of food. So when the animal is reinforced for it. And it records the timing of those things. And I think the best thing to do is to show you the power of operant conditioning by showing you a video of B.F. Skinner training a pigeon to move around in a 360-degree circle. So hang on for that. And then once that's done, come back for the next video.
And we're going to try another pigeon now, and I will try to pick out some particular pattern of behavior and make it a more frequent part of the repertoire of the bird. Very fine. This bird has been already conditioned to eat when the magazine sounds and the light flashes. Now we'll just watch its behavior a bit. It's not doing anything in particular, you see, but I'm going to try to get it to do something. Suppose I shape up the behavior of making a complete turn. What I do is simply, as I did then, to wait for some part of that behavior. There's more of it, you see. All you see, the effect is instantaneous. I'm waiting for it to turn counterclockwise now. And then I reinforce that movement. And I wait for a more pronounced movement than that. It's got to be more than that. There we go, all the way around.